Today we're going to talk about terminating and repeating decimals. So we've been working on conversions. One of those conversions is a fraction to a decimal. So for example, if we're taking 15 over 20 and we're turning that into a decimal, if you remember the steps to that is we take our numerator, divide it by the denominator. 15 divided by 20. So that is 0.75. So that is the equivalent decimal. Now this is called a terminating decimal. Why is it called a terminating decimal? Because it ends. Pretty simple. Okay, another example of one of those. 7 divided by 10. So 7 over 10 is 0.7. 12 over 16. Another example. 12 divided by 16, 0.75. So how do we write a terminating decimal? We write everything that's on the screen. That's our terminating decimal. Okay, now the second type is what's called a repeating decimal. So that's terminating T, repeating. So an example of a repeating decimal is when the digits are not going to end. So if I have an example, would be if I have 4/9. Okay, there we see on the screen there, the 4s continue. Now, of course, this screen on a calculator can only hold this many digits on it, but this would keep repeating on and on and on if you did a long hand division question, dividing those two, it would go on and on and on. Okay, another example would be, let's see, 7/11. Okay, so on this one, what do we see is repeating on this one? We see the 6 and the 3 are repeating. 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, and on. Okay, another example, 45. Okay, so what's repeating on this one? The 0, 4, 5, 0, 4, 5, 0, 4, 5. Okay, so now there's some examples of repeating decimals. So the question comes up, how do we write these properly? Okay, so there's two important things to remember. First, we're going to write down, if we're putting this as a decimal, we're going to write down the digits until they repeat. So I'd write down 0, 4, 5, okay, and then we're going to start over with the repeating. So that's all I write down there. So then, to show that they are repeating, we use what's called a bar notation. So I place the bar over top of all of the digits and only the digits that are repeating. Okay, so I write the first time the digits that repeat appear, and then I put the bar over the top of those. So when someone looks at this, they say, this means, the bar notation means that these digits are repeating. Okay, so another example would be, let's see, another one would be 12/37. Okay, so this one. What's repeating on this one? 0 is not repeating. 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4. So I would write 3, 2, 4 and put my bar notation over the top of that. How about 7/11? 7 over 11. Okay, repeating on this one. We already did this one, I think. 6, 0.63. I would put that there. How about... let's try 45 divided by, 45, equals 0.45 with a repeater over it. Okay, so here's the example of some that repeat. Now, I want to try this one right here. Now, what would I do in this instance when I have 5/6? 5 divided by 6. Okay, so on this one here, do all the digits on the screen repeat? No, they do not. So again, the rule here for showing that the repeating is, I write down the digits until I get to one that repeats. So in this sense, the 8 doesn't. So then the 3 repeats. I only write it down the first time it repeats, and then I put a bar. In this instance, only over the 3. The 8 is not repeating. Okay, so the 3 is repeating. So that's how I would do that one. What's another one? 3 divided by 7. Okay, can you hear the laughing in the background? Math is super funny. Okay, now this brings up another example. You have to be careful on some of these based on your calculator. So I'm going to bring in a different calculator here. I'm going to show you what I mean. So based on your calculator, so if I have 2/3, okay, so 2 divided by 3. So on this calculator, this is what it shows. So how would I write this down? 0.6 repeated, okay? Now, if I take this calculator, 2 divided by 3, slightly different, you see there. So what's this calculator doing? It's not doing it incorrectly, but what some calculators, and you just need to test this to see what your calculator does, when they get to the last digit, if it's a repeating decimal, if it's possible to round it, it rounds it. Okay, but this is still a repeating decimal. 2/3 is still a repeating decimal, even despite my calculator doing this. So you have to be careful with a few of these where it fills the whole screen. So you could do a little test there to see if your calculator's. And the reason I point that up is because some of you might be inclined to write this whole thing out and say that it's not a repeating decimal, okay? If it goes along and it looks like the digits are repeating and then it rounds it up, be careful, it's still a repeating decimal.